Yes, family. All right, back again. News item number 2. Now, I did have this from a few days ago, but for whatever reason, I didn't really come through with it. But, because there's so much conflicting information right now, and more so because obviously we're being encouraged to return back to work and so forth in August. Yeah. I thought I'd sort of cover this still, and also because it's pertaining to Italy. Yeah, and in the first instance, apparently we were X amount of weeks away from Italy, and England acted slowly, etc., etc. So let me just read this piece and tell me what you think, family. Okay, so it headlines: Coronavirus warning from Italy. Effects of COVID-19 could be worse than first thought. Italian doctors are warning that the COVID-19 is not just a respiratory disease, but a killer affecting the whole body. Okay, so it's got a little video. Um, let me read it first. It says the long-term effects of COVID-19, even on people who suffered a mild infection, could be far worse than was originally anticipated, according to researchers and doctors in northern Italy. Psychosis, insomnia, kidney disease, spinal infections, strokes, chronic tiredness, and mobility issues are being identified in former coronavirus patients in Lombardy, the worst affected region in the country. The doctors warn that some victims may never recover from the illness and that all age groups are vulnerable. The virus is a systematic infection that affects all the organs of the body, not, as was previously thought, just a respiratory disease, they say. Some people may find that their ability to properly work, to concentrate, and even to take part in physical activities will be severely impaired. The physicians warn that people who do not consider themselves in a vulnerable group and aren't concerned at contracting the disease could be putting themselves in danger of life-changing illnesses if they ignore the rules to keep safe. They stress that the need for social distancing and hand washing and masks is as important now as it ever was. The warnings come amid growing concerns in northern Italy that a second wave of the virus could be imminent. Doctors in 2 of the main hospitals in the region have reported a handful of new cases of severely ill people with respiratory problems. Dr. Roberto Consentini, head of emergencies at Papa Giovanni XIII Hospital in Bergamo, oversaw the response to the virus that swept through this Alpine province, claiming the lives of at least 6,000 people. He gave Sky News unprecedented access to the hospital's emergency rooms in March, when the first shocking effects of the virus were broadcast around the world, changing perceptions of the scale of the problem. Now he is leading efforts to again send a warning across the globe that COVID-19 is a lethal killer that affects the whole body and is not going away. At first, initially, we thought it was a bad flu. Then we thought it was a bad flu with a very bad pneumonia. It was the phase when you came here, but subsequently we discovered that it is a systematic illness with vessel damage in the whole body, with renal involvement, cerebral involvement, he told me in the now silent COVID-19 emergency room that was overwhelmed a few months ago. So, we are seeing other acute manifestations of renal failure that require dialysis or stroke, and then acute myocardial infarction, so a lot of complications or other manifestations of the virus. And also, now we see a significant proportion of the population with chronic damage from the virus. One of the few positives emerging from the pandemic that caused havoc to the health service here was the creation of a unique environment where doctors and experts in different fields found themselves working together for months, effectively learning new skills. That cooperation is helping the understanding of the virus. Dr. Emanuela Cantenesi is a neurosurgeon at Cremona Hospital, and when we first met her in March, she had been co-opted to work on the intensive care wards during the worst of the outbreak. She's back on neurology, but crucially, whereas in the past she would have treated patients completely independent of other departments, now she can see the link. That link is COVID-19, and it is a multi-organ killer. In our hospitals, now we have a practice with immunologists who are checking these patients, especially the most severe, those with the most severe illnesses, and they are checking not only lungs but all the systematic manifestations of COVID-19 pathology, she told me. The virus is a systematic infection. Some of our apparatus organs have the biggest manifestations, such as lungs, as we know, but also brain, skin, and sometimes we have vasculitis. So it's not just high respiratory or low respiratory infection. It's not finished at that, she said. The Italian doctors' findings in their patients mirror a recent study carried out at a university college, London. Researchers identified serious neurological complications arising from COVID-19, including delirium. Oh, what just happened there? Sorry, family. Delirium, brain inflammation, stroke, and nerve damage in 43 people aged 16 to 85. Some of the patients had experienced no severe breathing problems at all, with the neurological disorder being the first and only sign that they had coronavirus. An intensive testing and follow-up analysis of all survivors has been launched in Bergamo. Teams of doctors examine those who have recovered on a constant basis, trying to track the changing properties of the virus. Filipino Alcani, 65, is one of the survivors being tested. He was intubated in February after becoming severely ill but recovered. He has been COVID-19 free for 4 months, but he still has problems breathing and has periods of severe exhaustion. He accepts his ongoing condition but sends a clear warning to people to take care not to catch the virus under any circumstance. To those who don't respect the rules, I wish I could have a week of what I felt, a week of feeling as bad as I have been, he told me. Gosh. Perhaps then they understand that they cannot underestimate the many warnings and mandatory rules we have been given. The doctors carrying out the follow-up and testing program say they simply do not know enough about the virus to predict what is going to happen next. It's something very different that changes the body of the patients, Dr. Gianluca Emery explained to me. We've also seen forms of asthma develop after coronavirus infections. We for sure know the damage of coronavirus is caused by inflammation, and asthma and other respiratory diseases are inflammatory diseases, and there are also inflammatory diseases in our body that can be developed and triggered by coronavirus. Simple, coronavirus pneumonia is something that patients will recover completely from a radiological point of view, but probably the biggest change is inflammation. I mean, we have seen inflammation in all their bodies, vascular systems and respiratory systems. So we think we have to tackle inflammation in those patients, even when they recover from the acute phase of disease. That was a mouthful, sorry, family. So little is known of the virus that any long-term planning is guesswork. Doctors believe that even the youngest and mildest infections are at risk of their lives being changed forever, and it could take years to become apparent. Whole workforces could become less productive as a consequence. The advice from Italy is simple: don't get infected. All right, family. So I know that was a bit of a long one, yeah, and a little bit repetitious in a couple of places, but that's probably just Italian to English. But yeah, I mean, of all, you know, of all the things that are being said, they're saying they really don't know nothing at all, man. That's really what I'm catching from it, and that it's also it's attacking organs. So let me play this video still, family, and I'll finish it on that. Obviously, please leave your views below, but yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, man. And you know, yeah, There's
the COVID virus, and it's only just becoming apparent. These are not coronavirus patients. But in this region, there is a spike in psychosis, kidney disease, spinal infections, strokes, chronic tiredness, and mobility issues. Even in people who had mild COVID-19. This isn't just a respiratory illness. It doesn't just pass.
Definitely not.
Italian doctors and researchers are increasingly concerned that there's been a huge underestimation of the sheer severity of COVID-19.
We still don't know what are the consequences of this virus.
Dr. Roberto Cosentini oversaw the emergency response in Bergamo, one of the worst affected towns in the north of the country.
We discovered that it is a systemic illness with vessel damage in the whole body.
Dr. Emanuela Catenacci is a neurologist who was co-opted to work on the intensive care wards. Crucially, whereas in the past she would have treated her patients completely independent of other departments, now she can see the link, and that link is COVID. It's a multi-organ killer.
The virus is a systemic infection, brain, skin, and sometimes we have vasculitis. It's not so high respiratory or low respiratory infectious. It's not finished that.
Here, all COVID victims are being constantly monitored and tested. They're trying to gauge the long-term effects of the disease. They're beginning to fear that some may never recover.
E dopo a quelli che invece non rispettano niente, le auguro una settimana che ho provato io.
Filippo Alcaini has been COVID-free for 4 months, but he still struggles to breathe or live a normal life.
Una bella settimana di star male come sono stato male io, che forse capiscono di non sottovalutare tanti aspetti che dobbiamo per forza obbedire e stare ai ripari.
What the doctors here are saying is that people must listen. They are seeing people who had mild COVID symptoms coming into hospital with serious illnesses that might stay with them for the rest of their lives.
Buongiorno, Giordano! Buongiorno!
Once again, they're emphasizing you must wash your hands, you must keep up social distancing, and you must wear a mask. The hospital wards in Lombardy, the worst hit area in Italy, are quiet now. But the long-term effects of the virus on society is ongoing. A second wave remains a possibility. But the effects of the first wave go on.
Alright then, family. So that's just a Sky News report just to even back up that story, you know. But yeah, this COVID-19, seemingly however many months later, we're still nowhere nearer any real solution. I mean, testing, vaccines, I don't know, it's a lot, man, it's a lot. But alright then, family, that's the second little story for the day. Well, I'm not going to say hope you enjoyed, but yeah, I'll catch you on the other side, family. I'll catch you on the other side.